Hey there, how you doing this morning? It's Brody Alfonso here on the morning show. Nice to have you with us. Let's get ready to go. Nice to see you. It's April 1st, 2024. Got to get up pretty early to fool the bro because people born on March 31st are the easiest to fool because they were literally born yesterday. And how is April Fool's Day like a huge open mic night? Because millions of people go out of the way to demonstrate how unfunny they are. Let me demonstrate to you folks here this morning. One thing you should know that no one understood was an April Fool's joke. No one expected you to have a sense of humor. All right. What is a prankster's favorite day of the year? It's April 1st, and it draws nearer and nearer. So be aware. that there could be some shenanigans out there. What do you call a realistic prankster? That's a practical joker. And the joke's on me here this morning. If you haven't tuned in, everybody's probably enjoying the long weekend, and I hope you have a good one. I hope the Easter Bunny was good to you. I hope you get plenty of chocolatey goodness in your life. Starting right here on Monday, maybe you're planning an Easter egg hunt. Maybe you're planning a little something special. Maybe some Magic the Gathering pack openings. Wherever you are, wherever you've got Brody dragging along for the ride here this morning, whether you're chilling at home here on the holiday Monday, maybe you're out the door already heading to work, maybe you got me dragging from the bumper of the car. No matter where you are, I want to thank you folks for dragging me along with you and taking me along for the ride here this morning. Let's enjoy the ride this morning and get warmed up just a little bit. It's always necessary to warm up just a little bit here before we go. And how we're going to do that? Well, we're going to review some Yu-Gi-Oh cards here this morning. That's right, Yu-Gi-Oh and Lorcana instead of the usual Magic the Gathering. Let's get into it. And how are we going to do that? Well, we'll take a look at some AI-generated Yu-Gi-Oh cards and some AI-generated Lorcana cards. And if the card is playable any way whatsoever, we'll pass it. We'll hear this sound. That's the sound of the dinger. But if the card is non-functional, if it's got junk text on it, if it doesn't make sense, if it's not a Yu-Gi-Oh card, you'll hear this sound. The sound of the womp womp. All right. All right, April Fools. We're not doing Yu-Gi-Oh cards here this morning. We're going to stick with Magic the Gathering for all you purists at heart. Those of you that like the art and the cards and the text and the flex from these AI-generated mythics. We've got one for the birds here this morning. And what is this bird we see? It's a 2/2 creature. It should have flying, but I don't see that text on it. All right. It's already getting closer and closer to failing the sniff test here this morning. Bird with the world. Mow, 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 mow. Bird is the word here this morning. For a green and 3, you get a 2/2 whenever you cast your library. You may exile it. Remove 3 counters from bird with the wild world. If you do create 2/1/1 black worm creature tokens. All right, the bird needs a little bit of breakfast here this morning. Breakfast in bed. Early bird gets the worm, and you can too. If you're early to the morning show, let's go. This one. Make sure we get the right sound effect. Going, all right, bird of the world. This one's non-functional. Doesn't quite fit the criteria necessary for a magic card. It should have flying, and I don't know the last time a player was able to just play his entire library, but the Style Butner is a Rakdos card that's here for your enjoyment this morning. This 0/5 spirit creature costs you a black, a red, and 1, and you get a 0/5 spirit that taps to flip a coin. If you win the flip, you get to untap it. Oh, goody. This seems fine. I think it's okay. Let's pass it. I mean, if you got multiple ways to gain board state from untapping or tapping a creature, the Style Butner can probably get you there. It seems fine. A little bit underpowered, though. Let's give it the UP. Most people say it's fair. April Fools, right? Sky Shroud 1, the zombie get cyan. 3/2 for a red and 2 first strike flying. It's got some wings on there. Whenever Sky Shroud 1 attacks, you get a couple energy and pay an energy to add a colorless. Ooh, that seems busted. Something you can filter your energy in. It seems good, though. I'll take it. This one seems just fine. I'm going to give it a fair, even though it's probably going to come up overpowered due to the fact you can make all kinds of mana. Overpowered due to the energy mechanic. All right, what about Azor, the Tortor? This guy's got some torque on his tower. The 3/3 creature vampire rogue costs you 3 white and 2. It's a 3/3 at the beginning of your upkeep. Scry X, where X is your life total. Ooh, I like these. Seems fine. You're paying 5 mana for a 3/3 that doesn't even fly and it's got wings on it. You get the upside of scrying X, where X is your life total. It seems like a lot. You could just get one card, right? A lot of people saying this one's OP. Fine. I disagree with the O to the P. What about this one? Infernal Caress. This one will caress your This will caress the sweet side of your face each and every time you play it. It costs you 1 blue and 2, and this instant is arcane. It's got domain, and you can counter target spell and create X1/1 white creature tokens with flying where X is engineering. Mana card's value. Draw a card. Also replaces itself. Got some funk text, junk text. This one smells funny. Works even better. Molten Ward. What about this one? The Saga. The Baba Yaga Saga cost you a blue, a green, and a black and 2 for this Saga. First proc, destroy all other creatures. Second proc, create 2 humans that are 1/1s and tokens. With 2, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Create a tap power stone token and untap it. Hey, that seems fine. You get a board wipe, then you start coming back with humans. You get the top power stone. This seems not too bad. All right. Let's pass it. Pass it, flash it, dash it, and move on. What's up, Hot Dice? Get some nozzles here this morning. First of his name, Benson, son of Ben. Nice to have you with us here, boys, on a Monday, April Fool's Day, right? I hope you weren't born on March 31st. You'll be very easy to prank because you would have been born yesterday. Joke's on you, April Fool's Day. I can be fooled any day of the year. Doesn't take a special day for me to get pranks pulled over on me. I mean, it's a great day to pull pranks, except on me, if you're smart. All right, what's the biggest difference between Thanksgiving and April Fools? One, on one you're thankful, and the other you're prankful. But this is no prank here. This split card. This is a battle. It's a battle. Life's a battle. Gotta dig it. Life's a garden. Dig it. All right. This one feels a little more Joe Dirt than anything. We got Far Fire of the Wise. Legendary Battle Siege. Are all battles legendary? This one is. Uh, you got to choose somebody to defend it. Solvier creatures you control have indestructible. Those old Solviers. If you're playing Solvier Tribal, this one's for you. And at the beginning of each end step, discard your hand. If you do, take an extra turn after this one. Wow. Cost you your hand to take an extra turn. Oh, heck, it's April Fool's. I got to think of a way to measure with my wife. Yes. I mean, this one's OP. And Jungle Blade. Yes. You gotta, don't do anything too drastic. Let me know what you come up with. All right. I remember as a kid, the April Fool's was the day that you just like couldn't wait to pull some kind of a prank. The key to a good prank, nobody gets hurt. All right. 1 red and a black. Casualty 1. Mill 3 cards, then draw a card. Seems fine. I don't know what the casualty mechanic is. That's a new mechanic. And didn't Dine Sale Disperse. Discard a card at random and tap all non-black creatures. A 2-mana artifact? Sure, why not? Just a random card. All black stuff gets untapped. Defeat. What's with that defeatist attitude, Brody? As an additional cost to cast this creature, you get to sack a creature, and defeat of the feat deals X damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. You may cast any number of spells with mana value 3 or less from among them without paying their mana cost. God and every opponent's triggered ability. This one, it's got the funk text on it, a little bit of junk text. This one don't work. Good morning, folks. Michael Superbacker, nice to have you with us. Good morning. I checked for the live stream, but then I just drove to the post office, and now you are on. Nice to have you here this morning. Coffee is tasting especially good here this morning. All right. Wherever you got Brody dragging along for the ride, whether you're on your way to the post office, whether you're hanging out at home having a holiday Monday, whatever you may be doing, it's a pleasure to have you viewing here this morning and joining me on the stream where we're going to try and have a little bit of fun here this April Fool's Fun Day, Monday, first day of the week. Hope you got a good plan set out ahead of you for success in your journey. And to help you along your Magic the Gathering finance journey, we're going to discuss the prices of Magic cards here on the show like we do each and every day. Did you have some fun? I got to play Commander over the weekend. I came in fourth in a tournament. It's because I got 2 buys, which gave me 6 points, and that put me comfortably in fourth seat. Unfortunately, the prank was on Brody because only top 3 got prizing. It was a 9-person pool, so you'll be in the front seat of my car, then on the big screen at home. Excellent, excellent. Good to hear. So be wary out there. There's pranksters that will meet you out in the world. You got to look out for those. They might be trying to pull a fast one on you. Don't take any wooden nickels and don't fall for any cheap pranks, right? April's always happy because it's got a little bit of spring in its step. And step ladder's least favorite day is April Stool's Day. And what did April Fool's Day say after it won an award? Prank you very much. Let's take a look at some news articles here today. We've got a decent selection to bode through here this morning. Checking out the stock desk, the rock desk. I got an article. MTG head designer confirms masterpiece are a thing of the past, and players amused by April Fool's addition to Arena. Classic creature type receives a major errata. That seems relevant. Let's take a look at this classic creature type that received an errata here. I'm going to play the filthy next deck later. April Fools. All right, let's take a look here. Classic MTG creature type receives a major errata. What could it be? At a glance. Throughout Magic's history, there have been a multitude of tribal decks that have dominated various constructed formats, and these decks are typically restricted towards focusing on one creature type, and there is some major payoff that makes this constraint worthwhile. The Rakhtai's Vampires deck in Pioneer, for example, playing Sorin, the Imperialist Bloodlord, is such a strong card that players are willing to issue powerful options in flavor for cards like Dust, Legion, Zealot, which synergize with it. Looking back over the years, it's amazing just how many different creature types players have built decks around, especially in commander setting. Even underutilizing creature types like the Rebel can find homes alongside the strong legends. Lin Civi, the Defiant Hero. In this case, as Magic the Gathering card pool continues to grow faster, more and more creature types keep gaining extra support, sometimes such as with the recent Capybara, entirely new creature type gets introduced. You know, Rebels were a creature type. I think there was some synergy among Rebels. It was interesting because Rebels only came out once, and I think there was a synergy with Rebels where there would be Rebels of different colors, so that if you played a Rebel tribe type deck, that you could get support no matter what color you were playing, so long as the creature type was rebels. Maybe we're talking about that. But as the Magic the Gathering card pool continues to grow faster, more and more creature types keep gaining extra support. Sometimes, as with the recent Capybara, entirely new creature types get introduced. On the flip side, though, it seems that more and more creatures are either receiving errata or being discontinued. Take Naga, for example. Nagas have a lot of similarities to snakes, though they do feature humanoid upper bodies. With the release of Khans of Tarkir on Arena, R&D decided to ultimately revoke the Naga creature type, and all Nagas would receive an errata to become snakes for the foreseeable future. This week, a very similar decision was made at the time that Viashino creature would also become obsolete. Let's take a look at exactly what this means going forward. Viashino is no more. Oh my God. Bye bye, Viashino. Super sad. Like, if you played during the Mirage block, there was a whole plethora of Viashino creatures. There was like the Viashino War. There was trying to build a viable Viashino deck wasn't at all great, but it was possible. It's funny that it's too bad to see a discontinuation of such an old creature type. But what does it become? Just a straight up lizard? In a recent post made on Magic headquarters designer Mark Rosewater's blogatog, a player pointed out that Laughing Jasper Flint is a lizard. Let's see here. This guy is a lizard. That's the one we see here. Lizard Rogue. Not a Viashino, and Laughing Jasper Flint was just recently spoiled as part of the upcoming Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and it seems to closely resemble other Viashino creature cards in the past. Viashino, more specifically, was a term used to describe the humanoid lizard folk in the world of Magic the Gathering, and these creatures generally had some interesting characteristics, including an overall intelligence and an ability to walk on two legs. Not only that, but every single Viashino creature throughout Magic the Gathering's history has been red. This is not true of lizards, however. There has been plenty of mono green Simic lizards printed over time. And in the case of the Laughing Jasper Flint, we have a red card with the clear humanoid traits whose artwork depicts a bipedal and weapon wielding creature. As such, it would make perfect sense for Laughing Jasper Flint to be a Viashino. Well, Mark responded to the Blogatalk post saying that the Viashino creature type is ultimately being changed to lizard. While these creatures will remain Viashino from a flavor standpoint, they'll functionally be lizards from now on, and this response suggests a full erratum of previously printed Viashinos as well, which would go all the way back to Mirage Block when we first saw Viashinos being errated. The first thing that comes to mind when I'm looking at this article in the news about the Viashino type becoming extinct and now being referred to as lizards, what about these lizards that would still like to be Viashinos? Perhaps this is going to give some support or maybe some price upticks because certain cards that were once Viashinos will now be viable for play in a lizard deck. It's a far stretch for Magic the Gathering finance to start speculating on Lizard Tribal with the changing of the errata from Viashino to Lizard, but I wouldn't be surprised if something came along and became playable that once wasn't. The response suggests the full erratum of previously printed Viashinos. While this isn't a huge deal, it does mean that there are going to be some significantly more lizards in Magic the Gathering, so it could be cool to see a lizard-focused commander deck in the future, if we're lucky. I wonder if Viashino was considered for dinosaur. Sounds like lizard is the way it's going. Good morning, Murray. Nice to have you with us. It's Monday. I believe it's April Fool's Day. I hope this isn't a cruel, cruel April Fool's joke. A long time coming, Zayatora, the Viashino warrior envoy. This card, Viashino's printed as just recently far back as the Streets of New Capenna set. And while it's interesting that the lizard errata may seem a bit random, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise. Back in November 2023, Rosenbottom hinted at the fact that there was a chance for his change to occur. Notably, his response was to a question that also asked about potential cephalid to be changed to octopus and Homrid and Cameron to be changed to Crab. Neither of these other changes have occurred yet, but with the multitude of recent errata announcements and the creation of new creature types for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, additional feature changes wouldn't be too surprising. In a game that strives to be inclusive and more diversive, I think we're getting less diversive. Hey, we're what's the opposite of diverging? Converging all of the Viashinos and the lizards into one tribe for now and forevermore. The race of the Viashino has now become extinct. Furthermore, in the case of the Viashino errata, there's been hints that suggesting this potential change is coming for years. As back as 2016, Rosenboom mentioned that the R&D has always find this exact train of thought that Viashino should be a lizard. Finally, after nearly 8 years, it's changed and it's official. Still, even with that being said, it'll be worth monitoring when this change ultimately gets programmed on digital formats. And when Cons of Tarkir on Magic Arena, Nagas were still part of the lizard set with Viashino, despite it being likely that only lizards show up in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It doesn't address cards like Zayator's Envoy that were printed in previous sets. Here's a little post from the Reddit. No, I don't like this one bit, but Viashino is a classic magic creature type and should stick around. Also, I find it hilarious. Just last set, they refused to errata a handful of creatures to detective that absolutely should be one, but now are completely okay erasing a huge creature type from the entire game. Ultimately, it appears that many players view this change as net negative for Magic. First of all, some players mentioned that the Viashino creature is classic inclusion that dates way back to the beginning of Magic and Mirage Block. Early days. With its erasure, some players feel its game is losing some of its uniqueness. Viashino first appeared all the way back in Mirage almost a year after being showcased in the Prodigal Sorcerer novel. Furthermore, players pointed out that it seems a bit random what creature types end up getting the axe, and after cards like Dog Detective weren't given potentially relevant errata. Dog Detective does not actually have the detective creature type. Some players felt it was tough to follow when the creature types might be changed and when they wouldn't. Others feel that these chains are simply going too far, and I don't want to see any more unique creature types get discontinued. Having plenty of players holding out hope for this might foreshadow extra lizard tribal support with the release of Broomburrow. This seems highly plausible, though only time will tell to the extent of which this is the case. Hopefully, in time, the Viashin errata will be perceived as beneficial and not a detriment, as Combo is shaking his fist at this decision. I will wait for not April 1st before believing any news article. They've got me before. Good point. Good. Excellent. Excellent approach. Well, we got some Magic the Gathering players amused by April Fool's editions on Arena. Take this news with a grain of salt. It could just be a far fetched and well stretched April Fool's joke. Marina has a lot of unique features that give the platform different feel than paper Magic. While people are still able to play some of the same formats like Standard, Draft, the play experience can feel a little bit different. On Arena, where there are cool visual and sound effects when certain cards are played. I just make my own sound effect. Pew pew. Psh, psh. There are cool visual and sound effects when certain cards are played. Players can make use of pets as a neat aesthetic choice in this sense. Arena has some qualities that can make it feel like a video game and such. The developers also have the opportunity of adding amusing features with it at will. With April Fools just around the corner, it appears as though a couple intriguing changes have been made on Arena, and April Fools is a time for funny pranks and wacky installments. And this year, there's no exception. We got a brief history. Stormcrow, hey, making its way back. Over the past few years, Wizards has made a point to emphasize the April Fool's Day with funny changes. In 2022, all the avatars on MTG Arena became equipped with googly eyes, making them look hysterical. In 2023, players chose not to keep their Magic the Gathering Arena cards in virtual sleeves. Quickly noticed that they look completely damaged on screen. And furthermore, the background for everyone's games looks like old-fashioned desks from a classroom, with some interesting references to MTG scattered throughout. Even beyond MTG Arena, back in 2020, a special April Fool's Secret Layer product was revealed, highlighting cards like Stormcrow that have essentially become famous memes at this point. April Fool's 2024, One with Nothing. This weekend, players noticed some notable changes in preparation for April Fool's Day on Monday. First and foremost, on March 30th, Arena players received a message depicting the artwork of One with Nothing. As it turns out, players were able to claim a playset of this card at no cost. Supposedly, One with Nothing was utilized as a developer-only card on Magic Arena to help test certain situations. Roughly 10 months ago, some players noticed the outline for One with Nothing amongst other one black one drops in the card's library, suggesting that the card might be available in Arena in the first place. As it turns out, a Wizard of the Coast employee stated that it was indeed a test card and that it should have remained hidden. Now, one with Nothing is actually available for use. Unfortunately, One with Nothing is rather infamous, and for now, just how bad it truly is. Some players held out hope that they would make its presence felt in dredge shell of some kind, but the card is little to no competitive play over the years. Much like Stormcrow, the card is quite recognizable, amusing, so it seems like a perfect addition to an April Fool's joke. Actually, this is a card that we brought up a couple of times. One with Nothing is an instant speed card that lets you discard your hand. And it's from the Kamigawa set. And this card actually, it's plugged full of downside. But how many times have we seen it in the game of Magic the Gathering, especially even with a card like Lion's Eye Diamond, who has, been regularly touted as one of the worst cards in Magic the Gathering up until it became one of the best cards in Magic the Gathering. One with Nothing, if you ever wanted to discard your entire hand, this is the card that's going to let you do it for one single black mana. There may come a day when this card actually becomes good. Perhaps Dredge would make use of it in a build, perhaps. It's not a terrible, well, as it stands, it is a terrible card, and it really makes you just get rid of all your resources from your hand. But there may be a day where playing this card actually seems relevant. I would say this card, as cheap as it is a buy, it could be hinting at premonitions to come down the road where this card could actually be good, viable, or some other way to play it. The addition of One with Nothing isn't the only implementation on Arena this weekend. Players were greeted with a new pet avatar for purchase. This isn't any pet, though. It's a pet rock. For 200 gems and 1,000 gold, the pet rock can be yours. It even has the name of Dwayne, which is likely to direct reference to the famous wrestler Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I want to buy this card. I think it's not too bad. I generally don't use pets, but this was an instant buy. With regards to the addition of the pet rock, despite needing to be purchased, plenty of players seem quite enthusiastic about the appearance of an arena. It certainly shouldn't break the bank. And for players that don't generally make use of the pet feature, the pet rock may change their approach. It's unclear exactly how long this pet's going to be available for purchase. So if you're interested, make sure you get it quick. Maybe today's the day to pick up your pet rock. Switching Brody, the 100-inch plasma. Wow! Such an honor to be 100 inches tall, wide, and on the big screen. As for One with Nothing, players seemed pleased that more cards were being added to Arena for free, and some players even took it upon themselves to incorporate One with Nothing into their decks just for fun. In one case, a player with 56 lands and 4 copies of One with Nothing managed to win a game thanks to the opponent casting Juggle the Performance. What's this do? Each player discards their hand and conjures a duplicate of each of the 7 random cards from their library of the player to their right of their hand into their hand, and duplicates perpetually gain mana of any type can be spent to cast this spell. What a bizarre card from M24. Juggle the Performance, a Rakdos card. Opponent ended up with a bunch of useless cards as a result, and the hilarity ensued. These April Fools. See, there's a way to break One with Nothing. Just make your deck include crappy cards like One with Nothing, and then play off your opponent's deck, and then they play off yours. These April Fool's editions seem to always be a hit with the player. That would be an interesting control matchup. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled for any other wacky antics that could arise tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll just have to wait and see if 2025 can top for years prior. This seems funny. And then head designer confirms masterpieces are a thing of the past. A blast to the past. The masterpieces will never show up in your class ever again. These things are done and over with. Take these articles with a grain of salt. It is April Fool's. Over the years, Wizards of the Coast introduced a multitude of different ways to make the process of opening booster packs as enjoyable as possible. Back in Battle for Zendikar's release in 2015, a cool series of Masterpiece cards could be found in a small proportion of booster packs. These cards were thematic to the theme of the set, were very rare and valuable masterpieces appeared in multiple sets to follow. Since then, Wizards of the Coast have introduced plenty of other methods of giving players the opportunity to open interesting cards and beyond packs. Just those are associated with the main set, from fancy box toppers alongside Ultimate Masters booster boxes to special bonus sheets as mystical archetype collections from Strixhaven. Players have been given the opportunity to open intriguing cards in different ways. Masterpiece cards were rather unique in how they were distributed. Some players made it clear that they missed the inclusion of the Masterpiece cards in packs. Unfortunately, in a recent Blog Talk post, Rosenboom essentially ended all hopes of the Masterpiece series return. While he originally made it sound like Masterpiece sets would be phased out, he clarified and stated he was talking about the Masterpiece series specifically. To understand exactly what these means going forward, is worth taking a look back at what made Masterpiece sets and series different and how things have changed. Eventually, Wheeze of the week, bro. We're talking April, May, June, and August Fools. Players got their first chance to open Masterpiece cards in the release of Battle of Zendikar 2015. These cards were specific reprints of a variety of lands which can see heavily constructed play. As such, despite appearing on traditional border of booster packs, they were part of the main set. Between the Battle for Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch, 45 lands were featured, from there, the Kaladesh featured a group of masterpiece cards, this time also known as inventions focused on the artifact theme. Now, these cards, with the advent of this news, I think it's safe to say that the Kaladesh inventions will eventually go up and continue to be strong, with the border of the Kaladesh inventions being some of the most favorite border and card showcase variants in the entire game. Some people just can't get enough of the Kaladesh Inventions. With the news that this will be discontinued and masterpieces no longer making their way into the format, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some price spikes or just continued constant growth in the inventions. There was a lot of chatter when they came around when people said, "Oh, they're just going to get reprinted, Brody." Maybe they were special. This gives homage. Maybe they did one thing right by mistake back in the day by making these Kaladesh inventions so amazing and beautiful. And now going with the logic that these inventions are never going to be reprinted again, it's safe to say that we have a collectible in the world of Magic the Gathering. What separates these masterpieces from any other similar selection is the reprints and their overall rarity. For instance, only about one out of every 144 boosters had an invention in Kaladesh, and such the masterpiece was worth a decent chunk of money. Take the foil Scalding Tarn, for example. I mean, Scalding Tarn's available for around $20, and it's the cheapest traditional form according to TCG Player Marketplace. The expedition, as they were called, are 10 times that, coming in at $194. It's not to say that there haven't been rarer cards printed that were extra expensive, but serialized cards nowadays are often worth a ton of money. None more than the one of one copy of the One Ring, however. It seems like that's the new direction that Wizards decided to go. Instead of making masterpiece cards, the serialized cards provide Wizards of the Coast a method of continuing this you implied scarcity among cards without offering an extra type of border treatment other than the serialized number on the cards. These pricey cards are generally exclusive to collector boosters, giving them an entire different feel than pulling out masterpieces out of a generic booster pack. So, morning, Mr. DJ. A quick recap for you here. There's been the news this morning. Take it with a grain of salt. It is April Fool's. Oh Brody, oh my Brody. It sounds like the masterpieces are being discontinued. It also seems like the Viashino creature type is going to be discontinued and ratted as lizards, and the Naya creature type is now going to be referred to as snakes. So some interesting developments over the weekend. With the disappearance of masterpieces, it's rather interesting to conclude that the conclusion of Masterpiece series is that the Amonkhet invocations were originally designed around to be the last of the group. Instead, there were plans to highlight another round with the release of original Ixalan. This time, the theme was to be set on exploration. The card frame was going to resemble a land face, and the legendary transformation enchantment like Search for Iskanta. And this process was ultimately canceled by research and development. And Mark Rosenboom noted that while Zendikar expeditions and Kaladesh expedition inventions were both massive successes, there was a notable decline in overall reception with the invocations, perhaps because they were just designed so poorly and they were hard to read. That was the it was a game design issue with the invocations in Amonkhet. They were just painfully hard to actually read the title of the card, and they didn't look like a magic card, according to some players. They were difficult to even discern what the card text was. So, because of that, and because of the decline in reception over the invocations from Kaladesh, that Wizards of the Coast and our research and development decided to go away from inventions altogether and felt that this was in part because the theme was quite as clean as simply showing off lands or artifacts. With this in mind, there was a growing concern that these masterpieces would continue to drop off in quality and not be as well received from the player base. This helped to lead to their cancellation. Cancel culture got the invention. Howdy, Michael. Super backer. Nice to see you, Mr. Gaming Bot. I've never opened a masterpiece or expedition in any form. My sob story for the moment. I have opened a masterpiece. I didn't open like a good one. I think I maybe opened a Gear Hulk because there were so many Gear Hulks. The odds of pulling a Gear Hulk was actually quite good. We had like a whole series of Gear Hulks in the Kaladesh invention. So pulling a Gear Hulk was one of the, not so great inventions. It's believed that a handful of cards focused on searching mechanics that turned up in the near future, such as Scapeshift and Gamble and Demonic Tutor, were originally going to be part of the Excellent Masterpiece series. This would make sense. This theory has not been confirmed. Newer reprint subset variations. So here we see in these newer reprint subsets that Wizard of the Coast tried to go back to that same Kaladesh border with Ragavan the Nimble Pilferer. In fact, when the card set was spoiled with this border again, I thought we would be getting the exact same border of what we got in Kaladesh with a nice shiny gold border and the beautiful, beautiful looking shine and sheen. It almost looks like a foil overlay with the middle card here, border design from the original Kaladesh inventions. But then once they were actually released in print, I know some folks pre-ordered them expecting to see the shininess on these Ragavans that was the Kaladesh inventions. It would have been really, really something. It would have been wizards going straight to the well. But I'm glad they didn't do it because it gives a little bit of nostalgia and it makes the uniqueness of the Kaladesh inventions that much more sought after. Yes, they're just different arts of the lands in full art. They were called expeditions, and that's when they first released these. They were called expeditions, and then they went to inventions, and then they went to invocations. Just simply three different terms that meant a special version of that card printed in a foil variant with different art and a different border to give players a chase card with a rarity of about 1 in 6 boxes. The Kaladesh inventions were hard to pull. Not every case would. I think. Well, how many boosters were there in a case in those days? Let me think. I think it was one in every. There was 4 boosters in a case, and I think one in every 6 boxes. Maybe I'm maybe I'm mistaken, but they were quite rare. So it was almost like one in every case and a half was for sure to have one. I think that's what the ratio, or you get one, maybe two in a case. I think it was one in every 6 boxes would have one. So you had a probability and the odds of getting one in every case with the very, very slim chance to getting two in a case if you got a hot case. Mark Rosewater confirmed that masterpieces are generally a thing of the past. That doesn't mean that we have seen similar approaches in recent sets. For example, since Time Spiral, there have been a ton of different looks and bonus sheets to go along with their associated main sets. With the release of Outlaws of Thunder Junction, there will be 2 distinct bonus sheets to look forward to, and the bonus sheets, like masterpieces, can be found in normal boosters and players use during limited. The big difference, though, is that up to this point, a bonus sheet card has been guaranteed to appear in each booster. This made them significantly less rare and excellent reprints and expensive cards, such as Ragavan in particular. The Multiverse Legend bonus sheet for Martian the Machines actually plummeted in price as a result. With bonus sheets, players can also open reprints in the form of special guest cards on the cards from the list. These cards even have their own expansion symbol that first appeared in the Glass Caverns of Ixalan. With the introduction of play boosters and Murders of Karloff Manor, special guest cards have been a part of the list, and cards of any rarity from the list appeared in roughly 12.5% of the play boosters, taking the slot of the common card. The common card. Given the fact that these special guest cards aren't super common and to open in play boosters, they seem to most closely resemble masterpieces. With the vast number of card treatments and reprint variants available in play boosters and collector boosters, it isn't too surprising that masterpieces have gone by the wayside. Still, masterpieces were a hit back when they arrived and helped pave the way for how modern boosters are designed. I remember opening a couple myself and getting super excited each time. Masterpieces may be gone, but they're certainly not forgotten. Don't forget to bring a friend to Brody's here. It is April Fool's, so carry on your way, my wayward son. But be careful that nobody pulls a prank on you. Me and me and Bob, the Paint Bros. Hmm. What do you call a hammer? Bought on April Fool's. Well, that's an April tool. And when shouldn't you plant spring flowers? When you haven't bought any. All right. Eggs don't play April Fool's pranks because they tend to crack each other up in the best of times. And did you hear about the guy who swapped labels at the gas pumps? It was an April Fuels joke. Price of gasoline going up here. April Fool's joke. For those of you living in Canada, today's the day we get a new tax. Hooray. The joke's on us and each and every one of us. Going to pay more at the pumps for each and everything. I think groceries are going to go up. And according to our analysis of George Trich's chart, the period of bad times are going to continue until the morale drops off to a point where everybody's just depressed because they're so darn broke they have no money to buy magic cards. But stay positive because this can't last forever. Markets are cyclical, and even though we're in a period of tough times, cheap prices on the reserve list, certain collectibles are quite easy to find for a discount right now, except that money is hard to come by. So if you are saving your hard earned money, I would like to congratulate you for exercising some financial responsibility, because even though the things that money can buy, like the necessities and food, shelter, clothing, and the things that you need to make it down your daily journey are all going up in price, it seems like the things that are superfluous and collectibles and shiny things, the baubles, like magic cards, collectibles as a whole, the market is softening on some of these expensive cards, and it may be due to the sentiment of players out there. Older players that still have nostalgia for the old Magic cards, cards on the reserve list, and newer players who are maybe more focused on the gameplay and newer sets and don't care so much about the older cards. It's going to take some time for things to sort of sway in the other direction. So I advise you to sit tight, hold on, and there may be some opportunities to pick up some cheap reserve list cards or some high-end Magic singles from now into the foreseeable future. While this collectibles market remains low, it remains a buying opportunity for folks who have been patient and are stacking a little bit of dry powder off to the side, perhaps trying to pick up a couple of reserve list singles for their commander decks. With that being said, the cost of dual lands keeps rising, and folks can't complain about it enough. What's that sound? I hear it. I hear it. It's time to move, and it's time to shake in your seats with me here on April 1st, 2024. It's time for your movers and shakers. You want to get moving? You want to get grooving here on the morning show? We can do it together. It's Monday. Thanks for getting up with me. If you got me on the big screen TV, maybe you're on the way to the post office. Maybe you've got me at home, just chilling around, having an easy Monday. I think it's a holiday around most of the world. If those of you who celebrate the holiday Monday, the Easter holiday Monday, celebrating the birth and the death of man who walked the land once upon a time, it's a good time. Be thankful. Something to be thankful for. All right, maybe you're just, hiding some Easter eggs around the house this weekend. Let's see if we can find some Easter eggs on the movers and shakers list here this morning. A little bit of candy. Let's find a little bit of candy. Brody, could you give a shout out to Jenny? She's watching the TV with me, of course. Jenny, this is a shout out to you this fine weekend. A man with impeccable taste. Michael Supervisor, I want to thank you for introducing Jenny to the stream. We're happy to have you with us here this morning on Monday. I've got my coffee in my cup, Michael Superbacker edition. And what does it mean to never give up? It means you show some love for the fellow humans out there. Thanks for joining us, Jenny, on our amazing Magic the Gathering ride here this morning. For your viewing pleasure, we've got some movers and shakers. If you're first time joining us on the stream, let me introduce you to some of the folks that join us each and every day. We've got the finest folks in all the land tuning in from all over the world. We get people here from the Netherlands. We get people here from all over the United States. Of course, I'm based up in the great white north of Canada, one of the probably the highest north on the parallel system when you look at the globe out of any of the Magic the Gathering streamers or gamers or YouTube content creators. You'd have to live in Alaska to be farther north than this guy. I'm almost bordering with Santa at the North Pole. So we got some of the finest viewers coming in all over the world. Thanks for inviting Jenny to the stream this morning, Michael. It's great to have you with us. Mr. DJ Longhair, we got Hot Dice, we got MTG Gaming, Bob coming in all the way from Ohio. We've got Benson and coming in from, I think this stream's made in New York City. It's great. This is a place where we all like to get together and get up and get moving and get a little bit of positivity in our day and share a cup of coffee and discuss the prices of Magic the Gathering cards. It's not that hard to tune in and just discuss. You might teach me something. I might learn something from you folks, because I always enjoy a good discussion around Magic the Gathering cards. And I also like to open my eyes and see what's going on in the world today. And hopefully we can get some fun into your Magic the Gathering collection by picking up some of these cards that are underpriced and undervalued. If you like opening packs and shuffling up stacks of cards, this is the place to check your Magic the Gathering daily digest of cards that have been moving and shaking, and perhaps give you an opportunity to pick them up before they go sky high. Or if you're thinking of selling some of your Magic cards, which ones you want to hold on to and which ones have peaked in price to the point they're so hot you can't handle them anymore. You might want to trade them into the store and get something different. So that's what we are doing here. We like to have a little bit of fun. We like to get a little bit of energy and spread some positivity in the world because, we can always use a little bit more positivity. Here's a card that I'm super excited about. This one here, looking at the legacy list. Now, Brody, why are you looking at the legacy list? It's Monday. We don't do legacy until Thursday. So usually there's a few different formats of Magic the Gathering. There's different ones. We talk about Modern on Monday, Tuesday Pioneer, Whopper Wednesday is for Pauper. Whopper Popper Wednesday, we get ourselves a Whopper at the BKs and we can discuss Pauper on Wednesday. Thursday, we usually talk Legacy. And then Friday, we do a recap of everything that's out there in the world of Magic the Gathering. Just to understand, if you don't know anything about the game, if you're new to Magic, there are different formats of playing. There's 1v1. You can play one player versus another player with 60 cards, or you can have more than that. Or you can play 4-player game with 4 of your friends or 3 of your friends, 4 players all sitting down with a game called Commander. So there's different ways to play this game, and there's different formats in the game. And then some cards are only legal in some formats and not others. So if it's the world doesn't make sense and it's really difficult to figure out all these different formats, it's sort of a hurdle for getting into the game of Magic the Gathering because Brody does it all the time where somebody says, Brody, you can't play that card. It's banned in this format. What are you doing? And I scratch my head and I go, all right, I made another mistake. My deck contains illegal cards. Don't be discouraged. That can happen to you. But look at this card here on the top of the legacy list, just because I brought it up. This card here, Phyrexian Dreadnought. We were talking about Mirage in this article and the discontinuation of the Viashino creature type from the Mirage block. And the Mirage block goes back to when I started playing Magic. This old fuddy-duddy was playing in a Mirage block around 1995. And here's a card that was inherently bad when this card was printed. The Lion's Eye Diamond, and this is the interesting thing that I like to see about Magic the Gathering cards is like sometimes cards are printed, especially some of the older cards, and they're just like really bad. You're like, why would I ever want to play that card? That card seems terrible. Well, here's a great example of a card that seemed terrible at the time and just seems to get a little bit of love and appreciation these days because now it's got ways to actually what was once bad is now good and what was once good is now bad. This is a card that's a really good example of it, and I go baby go. This card's going to keep going solid. It's an interesting. I think I got it right behind me here in a box here. The Phyrexian Dreadnought. Here's a 1-mana card at the top of the right of the card. If you're new to Magic, Magic is a resource based game. All right, for Jenny or anybody who doesn't play Magic the Gathering or you're interested to know, Magic is a resource-based game where you have to pay for your stuff. And there's 5 different colors in Magic, and there's also these colorless cards called artifacts. And this one here, excuse me, this one here, on the top right of the card, it shows you the amount of resources that you need to play this card. This only costs you 1 mana. Mana is money. Oh, baby. Mana is money. It's what you need to put a wizard. It's the currency among wizards. Wizards need to pay for the spells somehow, and they draw that mana from the lands, the representative colors that they hail from. So, for example, the black mages may draw his mana from swamps. Red mages may draw his mana, or her mana, for that matter, from mountains. And the blue mages draw their mana from islands. Of course, these brown border cards are artifacts, and you can use 1 mana of any color, for instance, to pay for this one. And then we have a couple of different types of cards. Are there a way we're going to win this game? We're going to have to beat our opponent to death. We're going to take his life total to 0. That's one way to win the game. Of course, we got to have some creatures that'll do that. And our creature, like this one here, is a 12/12. 12 power on the left, and this is how much it hits for, and then the toughness on the right hand side. So it seems like In a resource-based game, paying one single resource for something with these kinds of stats on it, 12-12, quite big. It's got the keyword mechanic trample on it, which means it means things and shenanigans when this thing attacks. If you try and block it, it'll trample all over your opponent's creature and still manage to get you. But this got this extra text on it, which made it a really bad card for years and years. It's also part of the reserve list. So if we look up here, this card won't ever be printed again. It's reserved. What does it mean? You have to make a reservation to play this card? Well, it means it is a reserved. It's been reserved and it's not going to be printed again. It was a one-time thing, and it was a little bit too quirky, let's say. Most of these reserve list cards have either an extremely good ability that they say that was enough, we're not going back to that. But this one's reserve list, and it says when it comes into play, you got to sacrifice any number of creatures with total power 12 or greater, or bury the dreadnought. So this thing is going to eat your buddies if it comes into play for 1 mana. So there is the downside. But then the thing is with this card being printed, there's plenty of other ways to make use of this. Before it dies, there are new cards that allow you to stop this ability from happening. It also has a couple of card interactions that can take advantage of the fact that you got to sacrifice creatures or make things happen before it actually sacrifices. This card's been trending up in price for some time. Like, look at the chart on this card. This card's been moving. It started out back around, let's see here, $16 as far back as 2017. In 2018, it was $14, and now this card has like moved up a couple of steps, and it hit an all-time high around the Caladine block. But then it's been drifting down along with the rest of these collectible game pieces of cardboard that have little to no value outside of the game, but are extremely sought after by players. This thing, look at the price tick up in price, and this is probably because this new Commander was printed, and I'm excited about this one. I want to play it. I want to play Curry. So this is the Commander that has now made use of this dreadnought from the Fallout set. Curry, the emergent intelligence. He's a robot. So when they were playing Curry, he's got this neat ability that says, exile another non-token creature you control. Curry becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. So what Curry's going to do is he's going to copy the Dreadnought before you have to put him in the garbage bin. And you just don't pay for the sacrifice creatures, but because Curry himself is going to become a 12-12 by copying the stats of that dreaded Dreadnought. So an interesting example here of how a card from way back in the day is now seeing an incredible price uptick in price to $175 because of the new set that was printed. And then we're going to swing on over here to a quick look at the modern list. We got Elish Norm, the Grand Cenobite, up 16%. This card, I'm going to take a quick look at it because this card, I mean, is it a buy? Is it a sell? This card has been higher. I think it was up about $40 just not too long ago. This card, I think this card's a buy because it was $45. It will probably see a reprint again at some point in time. But this card, if you wanted it and you've been waiting patiently while this card drifted from all the way from $40 and down, now it's just sort of ticking up in price. It's definitely a buy if you wanted to get it. Now it's a little bit cheaper. The One Ring, here's a card that's interesting. This card goes in almost any deck these days. This is the one from the Lord of the Rings set. Selvala activation of Dreadnought. Ooh, hello. Give me a second here, Murray. Selvala? Explorer returned. Parlay tap. Each player reveals the top card of the library. For each non-land card, this way player adds green. You gain a life, and each player draws a card. Or am I thinking the right Selvala? Selvala's charged. Selvala Explorer returned. Selvala Heart of the Wild. Okay, whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature. A green and X, add X mana in any combination of color where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. See, here's another way to break this card, right? You can pay 1 green and tap it while the Dreadnought sits in play and get yourself 12 mana to work with. That's a lot. That's an upgrade. Okay, thank you for that. That's an excellent. Well, we'll have to give that the dinger, not the buzzer. All right, the One Ring. It's arguable to see how high this card is going to go. A lot of people say it would see a reprint at some point in time, but I picked up a couple of bundles because MTG Gaming Bob gave me a little bit of advice saying, like, get the bundle. It's guaranteed to get the one ring. Then you can set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about this thing going at 150 or 200 bucks. So just like get one copy so that you have it, and then you'll never look back. So I decided to get a copy of the One Ring. The One Ring, I think, is still a buy at this point. It's hard to say. It's such a new card and commanding such a high price, but it's played in all kinds of formats, including Legacy, Modern, Vintage. It's even played in Commander. This card's still hot. Kozlik, the Eldrazi, 46 bucks. Keep in mind that the Eldrazi, all of them were at a higher price tag once before. They were this card was $100 card, and now it's trended down. It's only worth about 45 bucks. If you ever wanted to pick up Kozlik, now's the time. Even though these are showing up on like the movers and the shakers list, it's because they've been so low. Just a little tick up in price makes them move. The One Ring, oof, right? I picked up the bundles for the same price as the cost of the single. If you can still find the bundles for cheap enough, that might be a way to get it. Darksteel Reactor, 4 mana. Reactor's indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on Darksteel Reactor, and when the reactor has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. Here's an alternate win condition. So there's other ways to win the game with cards that just say you win the game if something happens. Early in Magic the Gathering, the only way to win the game was to destroy your opponent's life total and bring it to zero. But since then, there's been a number of cards that have these odd conditions that if you meet the condition, if your deck set up around this odd condition, and you just straight up win the game, this is one of them. That's an example of it. So effects that say destroy don't. So this is indestructible. Upkeep, you get a charge counter. If you can proliferate this into this card has just been soaring. Look at this steady uptick in price. How much higher can this go? Let's see. Is there a foil version? The foil version is 33 bucks. It's only been printed once, and that's in dark steel. Generally, stuff made of dark steel is an artifact set. That means it can't be destroyed. The One Ring should be made of dark steel. This card's been cruising around 30 bucks for the foil version. I would say, like, if you ever wanted to play this, it's still actually cheap enough that you could pick it up for 30 bucks. Kenrith the Return King, Technical Inquirer's Dominus, something something Kenrith, something something Voral, something something Atraxa, something something Doctor. All these versions of the card, all these versions of commanders all playing this card. Cavern of Souls, this is a card that was higher. If you want to pick this up, this is a decent time to do it. This card was as high as $100. It's seen a couple of reprints, and I remember going back to, let's say around Dominaria, the first one. This card was right around here, and it was $85 to $90 to pick up a copy of this card. So since then, it's seen a couple of reprints, and every time it does, it sort of trends down in price, and it's now sitting at around the 45 buck mark. If you needed a Cavern of Souls to play competitive Modern, you'd have to spend $100 to do it, and it's half of that now. It might be time to pick this up. Protein Hydra. Not familiar with this card, but it's definitely mixing up a protein shake this morning. 1 and X for a 0/0 enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. And if damage would be dealt to Hydra, you prevent that damage and remove counters instead. Whenever the 1/1 counter is removed from Hydra, you put 2 counters on it at the beginning of the end step. So if you don't kill it, it gets bigger. This thing seems good. What set are we from? Magic 2010. How many versions of this? 2011 and 2010. The Protein Hydra has never seen a reprint. The foil version of it's $8. Have you ever wanted to play Hydras? This seems okay. You can't really go wrong with an $8 Hydra. What's the worst that could happen? It could go to $4 if it's reprinted. I'd get yourself the foil version of this card. Chances are, they're not going to be doing core sets anymore. Is another rumor that I heard, like Magic 11 was the core set in 2011, then M20, M12, then M13, M14, and M15. Ixalan Caverns is on my list. Hopefully, don't forget. So the Protein Hydra drinking his protein shake this morning for breakfast. And Crucible of Worlds, this card here also buy. Buy. Reminding you folks, Brody always says,
Buy low, sell high, that's my motto. I may just quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time stock market guy.
This card, Crucible of Worlds, is pretty good. It lets you play lands from your graveyard, and it's an artifact. It's plenty of ways to get good lands back. And in this day and age where landfall is powerful and, playing out of the graveyard is pretty common, this card can let you do it just about any deck. This card was a whole lot higher. And this was also available in a Kaladesh invention. So an example of that foil premium version, like this card was as high as 60, $70, then it's seen a downtick in price, and it's like never been lower. This card, definitely a buy. If you ever wanted to get it, now might be the time to do it. The Kaladesh invention version, the $120. This one is the most expensive of all the versions. How much is this one at? It's been swooping down in price. This one has been as high as 250 at a certain point in time. Now it's even trending down. So this one here is a pretty good example of a version of the card that's like just. I'm surprised that some of the Kaladesh inventions even soften in price. They seem to stay at the top of the field, the top of the pack of the cards that they represent for the version, the most sought after version. And this is the border that we were talking about earlier this morning in the article when we were discussing like the the inventions or the invocations or the special versions of this card, which include a really nice gold border. What else we got here? The Crucible of Worlds available in a regular version of $22 or the uh, expensive, uh, very expensive invention version, Greater Oromancy. Here's a card that I've been watching. This is from Shadowmoor block. And if you want to pick out some really decent cards in Shadowmoor, this would be one of them. Shadowmoor, I often forgot about set, and the foil versions of this one. The Enchanting Tales is expensive. Where's the one from Shadowmoor? The foil, $62 for this card. It's got some play value. It's got great art on it. It says other enchantments you control have shroud, and enchanted creatures you control have shroud. So this protects all your enchantments in an enchantment deck is quite good. If you have two enchantments that give each other protection, then it basically makes it so your opponents can't mess with your stuff and your enchantments can't be targeted, hurt, touched. You can't touch my things. Don't touch my stuff. My enchantments are sacred. This card was higher. Holy smokes, Greater Oromancy. Did we see a reprint? No, this card, we watched it last year just go higher and higher. Now it's down to about what are we at? This one's a buy. This one's definitely a buy because it's now at $16. It was as high as $80 or $90. I wonder what the foil version looks like. The foil version is 62. This one, if it ever, I want to take a look at this one. It was up as high as $200 around New Capenna, and it's down to 62. So some of these older foil cards from Shadowmoor, I just picked up two foil copies of One with Nothing. It's a good speculation. How much were they? One with Nothing. Let's see. How much were they, Michael? One with Nothing. It's a great speculation. It's one that we've covered here before because, like, if ever discarding your hand, we got One with Nothing, Saviors of Kamigawa. See, this is an older set. $8, right? Discard your hand. You won't go wrong with that. If discarding your hand, because this card could become popular, if Dredge becomes even more of a thing. You get them for $3.50 in a slightly played condition. The foil version doesn't seem too bad. How much is the One for Nothing in non-foil? 99 cents. See, I mean, if you can get a foil version for $3 or $4, it's not a huge investment. It's something that you might end up playing. Don't go hard on it by buying too many copies. But here's another card on Teferi's Puzzle Box. Speaking of drawing cards, this card definitely breaks the game in many ways. Look at this 4 mana artifact. Okay, there's a chart on it. It's been as high as $30 and it's trended down in price and it's been sitting in and around where it is now at a comfortable $7. All right, this card works well in Commander. It says at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player puts aside the cards in their hand from the top of their library in any order, then draws that many cards. So with a card like Orcish Bowmasters, here's a card that goes with it. If you want to make your opponents draw extra cards and pay and punish them for it, this is a card that's been very, very talked about banning it. And I think people are ridiculous if they think it should be banned, but just deal with it. Oh, Bowmasters enter the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one each turn they draw on each of their draw steps, Bowmasters deals a damage to them, and then you get an orc that gets bigger every single time. I got a deal: 275 for near mint and $2.03 for light play. Did you get the foil? Yes, you did. Good job. Nice work, Michael. That's some easy fun to get into your collection. Like a card like from Kamigawa block, the original foil version, like later, like we saw with the Dreadnought, a card that was really bad, right? Dreadnought, this is a perfect example. The Dreadnought, a card that is so bad when it was first printed, people thought, I'll never be able to play this. It's terrible. Well, the one with nothing is such a terrible card, it just might actually end up being good. Shivan Raptor used to be a lizard, but got errated to dinosaur. The fun fact, the more you know. I like the fun facts. So the puzzle box makes your opponents draw extra cards that auto include in wheel decks or Nekuzar decks or decks that do damage when your opponent gets greedy and draws too many cards. These are your movers and your shakers for the day of April 1st, 2024. All right, and we got one quick more article to hit you guys up with before you go. But before we do that, I just want to plug a little bit of a word from our sponsor. This stream is sponsored in part by MTG Stocks, where we got a premium membership that we're going to be using to track the prices of Magic cards here again this week. Maybe we'll do a little bit more work on our watch list and explore some of the features of this together, because we've got a couple of lists that are going and using this MTG Stocks Premium to track some of the prices of cards that we think are potential reprint targets that we're going to stay away from and not buy because they could be reprinted and the price could just tank. And then some other cards that we think have good long-term speculative value that you and I have both discussed and added to the list. We'll put some work. I'm gonna make sure to put some work into this list on the watch list here this week with you folks here on the morning show. But if you ever wanted to get yourself your own subscription to the premium membership, I'll save you 15% off if you want to use this link. It's in the description of the video. Feel no obligation to do it. You can always join me here on the morning show. I'll show you how to work it. I got it for a year from the folks at the stock desk, the fine folks who bring us my favorite Magic the Gathering website. And we talk about the prices of Magic cards here together. A brand new article fresh off the presses. This one's from Harvey McGinnis, and he's just the best writer in the space of Magic the Gathering. I love listening and reading Harvey's articles and putting a voice to it. So we're going to introduction to pricing alpha, beta, and unlimited. This is great for Jenny because and any new players, because alpha, beta, and unlimited are the first three sets of Magic the Gathering, going back all the way to 1994 and 95. The very first three sets of Magic the Gathering is alpha, beta, and unlimited. The first three sets, and some people would like to know, how do we price those cards? Well, Harvey's going to talk to us about it. We're going to discuss it, and we're going to get his thoughts on how to price old expensive Magic cards. And when you think about old expensive Magic cards, the first thing that comes to mind is the Black Lotus and the Jazam Djinn, and how about any reserve list cards? Something else like Guy's Cradle or Lion's Eye Diamond, or, well, you're not wrong, all these have been pretty hefty price tags. But what about a beta copy of Lightning Bolt? Certainly a notorious card, but the face, old and expensive. I imagine there's a group of cards that both Black Lotus and Lightning Bolt belong to, and with their price rules to match, it's time to start talking about Magic's first three sets and how to categorize them and how to read their prices and the unorthodox price charts. With the world, is there enough information out there, or does the world not even make sense? With the two big classifiers, notoriety and reprint status. All right, Hover is telling us that Magic's first sets, Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited, are rare and they're old and they're it's like Brody. They're rare and they're old, eh? And they're all worth something. Despite this, however, there are two crucial subdivisions within these cards specifically change how the market approaches these cards. And the first is simple notoriety, like the notoriety that you get from bringing Magic the Gathering finance each and every day. Not many people play Shivan Dragon anymore, but boy, oh boy, will it even an unlimited copy of Shivan Dragon set you back a few dollars. The card is iconic because it has an important history in the game's early days. As such, the given the value that most of the Alpha Beta Unlimited cards is due to a large part of their importance in the Magic card game, and it stands to reason that the game's early titans wouldn't gain the most from this sentiment. This doesn't apply to cards which are out of touch with modern power levels, however. I'd be remiss if not to mention the Power 9 here at least once, the cards which even in their cheapest printings, are several $1,000s. And yes, they're powerful and they are scarce. And we'll talk more on this later. But beyond that, they're all continuing to haunt the game's eternal zeitgeist. So if you've played Magic long enough, you've heard about the Power Nine and that public image is worth more than any game function. Some cards are famous because they're simply the first, and others are famous because they're simply got myth behind them. The Shivan Dragon, Lightning Bolt, Black Lotus have these myths. The second subdivision is reprint question, not just one of is this on the reserve list, but one of did this card see a post unlimited reprint? Something we've talked about before. Where did certain cards stop getting reprinted? Some of them even got stopped reprinting in unlimited, and we saw some of them in revised, and then more cards got discontinued in revised and moving forward. Shifting away from the reserve list here is a crucial understanding of the real supply of these cards, and sticking to the reserve list wouldn't mean folding force field and the dual lands into the same category, something which they most certainly aren't. The print run on revised was massive compared to the lump sum total of unlimited alpha and beta, and understanding this highlights that there are far more copies of something like Underground Sea than there are of force fields. This is why in such a substantial price jump between the two original white bordered sets, revised and unlimited, and it's all also why many Alpha Beta Unlimited cards are able to retain such strong price floor despite being otherwise obscure cards. Reading the charts, okay, so we've identified the difference between Alpha Beta and Unlimited cards and their price trends, but should we go out about and actually reading their price data? Well, simply supply is so limited with some of these cars, especially the big ticket ones, moving comparatively and frequently relative to modern era singles. It isn't as simple as it looks as just reading the charts. Here's a card, Time Twister. Very hard, very, very fond of this card. I picked this card up years ago and just watching it go crazy. This is why I think the collector's edition Time Twister that's tournament legal in old school is still a decent buy for $1,600. This one in the beta edition, the second edition of Magic the Gathering, is $16,499. Scratching my head for a piece of cardboard. But the first, when you look at the price chart on this one above, what does it tell you? It isn't that the price for Time Twister. Instead, the market price is reflective of the majority of past sales, which itself is primarily heavily played and moderately played listings. The average price, meanwhile, continues to reflect the median of the TCG player listings, which is weighted towards light play listings. This reflects the heavy value swings of alpha, beta, and unlimited cards for condition, and such reading charts can give you a good idea as to the general trend of a card's value by percentage, but not by absolute dollar amount. So while one market price is pretty useful and the other set of cards, when it comes to Alpha Beta Unlimited, you really want to look at both market median and market value. This paints a broader picture of all the conditions and their price movements. Alpha Beta Unlimited cards also suffer from significant price reporting anomalies because there's so few of them. And it's primarily due to an individual listing that surges the price. And when you look at the price of an unlimited Black Lotus from 2023, for example, you notice that there's a day when the market price reflects $1,000. Well, that's not right, right? Okay, because there's so few sales on these cards, and then time marches on, and then like the medium value dips because these cards don't get sold and bought each and every day. They're slower to move, but when they do, they move this price chart. Well, it is and it isn't when we're talking about the whether it's right to see one of these price charts dip down super low. It is realistic and it isn't to take the chart at face value. It is most assuredly isn't a correct reflection of the card's value, but it's an accurate report of what TCG Player was reporting for the card. Like mentioned earlier, cards move infrequently, so a single test sale for $1,000 is enough to tank the price for a day. Similarly, a graded copy going for $20,000 is more than enough data for some charts to think that the Black Lotus just spiked in price. This it reinforces that unlike the day-to-day tracking of card value that is capable for modern era single charts, the Alpha Beta Unlimited prices are best used to track long-run momentum instead. Instead of using these charts on these Alpha Beta cards to track the exact price, it's good to use them to track the momentum. All right, to wrap up, Magic's first set of cards are a class in and of themselves and beyond just the reserve list and the Power Nine. These cards have a unique history, both at the starting of the game and tracking its value. Reading their charts may be hard sometimes, but in the long run, it's most certainly will pay off. Another fine article from Harvey. Got to give a big thank you to this uh, writer over at the Stock Desk, giving us another great article. Student at the University of Johns Hopkins, been playing Magic since the release of Return to Ravnica, spending a few years in Legacy, bouncing between Miracles and Blue control shells. He now spends his entire time enjoying CEDH games and understanding the finance perspective. Also writes for the Commander Herald. All right, thank you, Harvey, for giving us something to chew on here. And this ain't no April Fool's joke. This is, in fact, Brody Alfonso signing off for the day. Wherever you are, I want to thank you folks for tuning in and joining me here on the morning show. I got places to go, people to see, things to do, and I hope you do too, whether you're hanging out at home with the loved ones, whether you're having an Easter egg. I think today's the day. Mrs. Alfonso wants me to take her to Shoppers to get some Easter bunnies on sale so we can bite the ears off and then and then throw away the rest. Why is biting the ears off an Easter bunny so satisfying? All right. Thanks again for tuning in, Jenny. We got Mill Master, Michael Superbacker. Thanks for having us with you and sharing some of your time with us here this morning. It's great. Have a good day. Hot Dice, Mill Master, DJ Long, Benson, Mr. Ed, the Dual Brain, Murray Cooper. We got Gaming. Did I say Gaming Bob? I hope. Let's say it again. Gaming Bob. Anybody tuning in on Twitch, X, or around the world, have a good one. Watch out for pranksters this morning. It's April Fool.